Hi guys, this is Leela. Welcome to my channel leelawebdev. In this video we will see about the difference between a Docker engine and a Docker desktop. So let's try to see what are the difference between these two. Let us see in details what Docker engine provides and what Docker desktop provides us. So first of all you need to understand that. One sec. Yeah. So this one leave it. Let us understand the basic difference between the Docker engine and the Docker desktop. Docker engine is the community edition and the Docker desktop is the enterprise edition. So this is the first one. So you need to understand. Whereas the Docker desktop means I have to purchase a subscription. For only limited access it is free of cost. Means that if the employees are less than 250 means, and if you want only few features without any security updates means, then you have to go for a Docker desktop. Okay. So that means what I am trying to tell is Docker engine is a community edition. So community edition is nothing but it's an open source. So anyone can install it and you can use it. Whereas the Docker desktop is an enterprise edition. For limited access you can use it for a freeware. So you need to purchase a subscription. For only limited access it is a free. For example, if your employees is having in an organization less than 50 and if you want only the few features without any security updates means, then you can go for a Docker desktop. In Docker engine, it doesn't need any hypervisor to be installed. I can install Docker engine in any virtual machine on bare metal server or in the cloud or inside the Docker also. So that means I can run my Docker as a Docker inside a Docker. So that means it is called as a Docker on Docker or nothing but D&D. So that means I can run Docker inside a Docker also I can run it. So Docker engine we can run it anywhere. It doesn't have any use of the hypervisor. In Docker desktop, if you want to install in Windows machine, you need to have a Hyper-V. Since we are talking about the Linux operating system, for that we need to have a KVM install or any other hypervisor unit like QMO or KVM. This particular KVM will try to create a virtual machine and inside that it will create a Docker desktop. So this is how the Docker desktop actually runs. So Docker desktop actually needs an hypervisor, Hyper-V. Whereas Docker engine doesn't need any hypervisor. You can install it directly. So normally the Docker desktop doesn't support for the Linux operating system. So recently they have given support for the Linux platform also. Earlier we used to have only for the Windows and the Mac OS only. So the Docker desktop supports only for the Windows and Macs. Now it supports for the Linux platform also. Anything if you want to update, if you want to maintain your Docker engine, if you want to build the images and all those things means, then you have to do it yourself only in the Docker engine. Whereas the Docker desktop, they will take care of it. So here whatever the things you want to do it in the Docker engine means you need to do it by yourself, DIY. So do it yourself only. Whereas the Docker desktop, they will take care of it. Docker engine supports stable and testing one. So stable means nothing, but you can use it for production, nothing but you can use it for production level. So and testing one means, so you will be having a Docker engine testing pre-GA also it is available. So that means if any new features or requirements are there means, then you can use it, the Docker engine you can install it and you can use it in your application and you can use it as an thing. You can use it as thing. So then afterwards it will make it as a generally available. So in the production level you can use it Docker engine stable version, and in the testing level you can use it Docker engine testing version. Generally, we use Docker engine for server-based machines. We use Docker desktop for GUI-based machines. So Docker engines like server-based machines means Linux with the server edition. So like that, which doesn't have any GUI-based means. So then we will be using this Docker engine. Whereas the Docker desktop, if you are trying to use it means GUI-based engine like Windows and Linux desktop systems and Mac OS. So these are the places where we will be using this Docker desktop. So there the graphical user interface will be there present. Docker engine, they provide a server tool. So whatever the things the Docker engine provides is, it will provide a server tool, Docker CLI client side tool, and the Docker Compose for orchestration. So if you want any other feature means you have to configure it. Whereas in the Docker desktop you get Docker engine, Docker CLI, Docker BuildX, Docker Compose, Kubernetes, and Docker Context Trust and Credential Helper. So these are all the things is available as a bundle. So as a bundle of features, so the Docker desktop will be providing it for you. Whereas the Docker engine, it contains of only server tool, Docker CLI and the Docker Compose. Docker engine, we can build, share images, we can create volumes, we can create networking, but the only difference is we don't have any support for the Kubernetes. So we cannot create a Kubernetes pods. So it is not possible in the Docker engine. For that we need to use a separate Kubernetes client. So we need to install it and we need to do it. So Docker engine, we cannot do it this one all. Whereas in the Docker desktop, they will additionally enable the latest version of Kubernetes, as well as it is much faster, stable, and it is natively supported for Hyper-V. So we can share the containers, build the images, and we can do a lot of more. So I am writing only some of the features only. In the Docker desktop, we can do it for more. So in Docker desktop, the Kubernetes will be available, and also the latest version will be available. That is also much faster, and it is natively supported by the Hyper-V. Docker engine is mostly used for the production based platform. If you are using the production server, or if you want to build the image for your organization, so then you have to go for Docker engine if you want only the basic functionalities. So for production level things, so we will be using the Docker engine. Docker desktop mostly used by the developers. So the developers will be using mostly by the developers. They want to first test in their local system. The Docker engine, afterwards the Docker engine, they can install, they can create Kubernetes pod, they can create containers, and they can build the images. Whatever they want, they can build the images. If you want these many features by the developer means, then you can go for the desktop, Docker desktop. So that is one thing. If you want only for running the containers and building the images, then go for the Docker engine. So if you want only to run the containers or build the images, then go for Docker engine. In this course, first we will learn about the Docker engine, and later we will see the Docker desktop. So that is not our priority thing. So why? Because by using the Docker, we have to install only Docker engine. Why? Because if you want to integrate the CI/CD tools like Jenkins, or if you want to use the code pipelines in AWS or Azure pipelines or Travis CI or GitLab Actions or GitHub, so whatever the things, if you want to use the CI/CD tools means, then we need to use the Docker engine only. Docker doesn't support, the Docker desktop doesn't support it. Docker engine only supports these all the CI/CD pipelines. So because of that reason, we need to use only the Docker engine. So in this session or in the videos, I will be using the Linux as the operating system, and I will create a virtual machine, and in that one we will use the Docker engine and we will develop it. So that is what I want to explain you. So these are the main difference between a Docker engine and a Docker desktop. So this is all about this one. So Docker desktop we will be using it in the Windows, Mac OS, where the graphical user interface is available. We will be using it, and this one is an enterprise edition. So that means for the limited access, it will be provided as a free. But if you want more features and the security updates and all those things means, then we need to purchase a subscription. Whereas the Docker engine is completely a community edition. It's an open source. Anyone can install it and anyone can use that one. So that's it guys about the difference between a Docker engine and the Docker desktop. I'll be providing the PPT link below to this description. So if anybody wants this PPT link means, they can have it. So if you have any doubts or any suggestions, please post the comments below to this video. And if you like this video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you.